couldn't get it out of my mind. I went to the bathroom and threw up for 2 damn days. So, and I mean, it's terrible. So please, if you can tell your people they can do anything, right into those states and tell them quit allowing white people to create all these negative images of black men and make them trying to convert them into women and putting it on TV, talking about this is a new movement. So it just made me sick on the stomach. So I'm recuperating from that now.
Well, you know what, Dr. Anderson, I agree with you. I think in terms of the promotion of mindsets and things that they call fads in the Black community, it is kind of interesting how they will pick things that are not beneficial to Black people being able to really protect themselves. One of the things that I would think about, particularly this week, after the killing of George Floyd out of Minneapolis, is that we need more masculinity in the Black community because that's important for the protection of families, the protection of communities, standing up against the police. And if you think about it, when you look at what just happened, out of Minneapolis, I mean, people are burning stuff down and screaming and hollering and protesting and everything else over the death of George Floyd. But you have to look at, what happened to our community in the first place. Why are we not able to adequately protect ourselves? Why is it that people can come into our neighborhoods and kill our men? George Floyd's a big, strong Black man. They can kill our men. And we think, and we just can't do nothing about it. They got all the guns, they have everything else. And it seems like there's a history to that. And I know that there's a history to that. And I wanted to ask you about that. How do we get to this point in the country where the police have such dominance over the Black community that they will kill you, look you right in the eye, and basically say, hey, we know that there's nothing you can do about it anyway, so we don't even care? What do you think, Dr. Anderson?
You're exactly right. But see, and in part, I can't blame all that on whites. I have to blame some of that on Black people. As part of that is the inappropriate behavior pattern on our parts of our people. We allow people to do that to us. What our people have never understood, particularly because of the Black leadership, the failure of Black leadership in the country, and the incompetence of our elected Black officials, what they never understood, as far as I can go back in history and find out, and I try to read maybe 8 or 9 different books a week, that Black people have never understood that slavery was a declaration of war. It's a declaration of war. The declaration of war was not necessarily against Black people in general, but it was against Black men, period. That's it. Because they know that if you weaken Black men or destroy the Black man, then the Black woman and her children are accessible. They are vulnerable to it for the white man to do anything he wants to, anytime he wants to use them any way he wants to. It's a declaration of war. That's the first thing. And secondly, I keep telling Black folk that white folk don't hate you because of your Blackness. It's not your Blackness they hate, but Blacks cannot get that through their heads. So I tell most of them now, don't even contact me anymore. I've been telling Black folk that for 60 damn years. It's not your color that they're against. It's your condition that they're against. Your condition symbolizes what? Symbolizes weakness. And so they kill Black folk because they can, because they know you're not gonna do anything. You can't push back. You're incapable of pushing back. You don't own and control anything. It's what you own and control that determines the quality of life, but also how long you're gonna live and how you're gonna live, if you're gonna live. It's your condition. And right now, your condition is bad. You're weak, poor, don't own and control anything. And that goes all the way back to slavery. So when you link it up with why they kill you because they can. And the police are in existence not to protect property, your property, or protect Black people. The police are in existence to protect white property and white people, period. That's where it started. And it goes all the way back to 1643. They passed the first gun control laws in this society. And Black folk don't even understand that yet. I put this in all these books where they keep saying, well, Black folk are against weapons and they want gun control too. Blacks have always been under control of whites. Whites have always had gun control over Black folk. As early as 1643, they passed laws, started in Virginia, says that a Black person cannot be armed because he's gonna be a slave. And we can't have him in a position where he can fight back and stand up for himself. And so that started in 1643. Then about 1667, on all the plantations, after the plantation system got automatically systematized all through the South, They passed policy and regulation called regulating arms on plantations. Again, saying no black person can carry an arm, a weapon, or a tool, or a knife, or a gun, or a bow and arrow, or anything to protect himself. And then that's the first thing. And secondly, that every white male between 18 and 45 is mandated, every white male between 18 and 45 is mandated to join a state militia, a colonial militia or a state militia. Nowadays, you call them National Guard. They're mandated to be in there. And again, to have weapons and tools at all times, to be on the road checking black people, to find what they're up to, what they're doing, and to be able to arrest them and get some explanation of where they're going, why they're going. And if they don't like it, they got a right to kill them. That is a law. That's what the Second Amendment to the Constitution is about. It arms white folk and disarms black folk. And you still got black folk talking about, I don't want no weapons. Damn it, you better be getting something in your hands to be able to protect yourselves. And so what you should be saying is that white folks right now own 100% of 367 million damn handguns and pistols in the United States and rifles. Damn it, you better be getting yourself some pistols and arming yourself and saying quid pro quo. You hit me, I'm gonna hit you back. You send me to the hospital, I'm gonna send you to the cemetery. Because they know if you don't do that, until that comes, your weakness is signified. I can go into a church and shoot 20 blacks right now. And all you're gonna do is say, oh, they're so bad, they're killing black folk. They're killing black men. Yeah, they're gonna keep on killing black men until you stand and say, we are not weak people. We are strong people, some of the strongest people in the world.
Well, you know, one of the things I want to ask you about this. So what you're basically saying, Dr. Anderson, is that a lot of what they consider to be what they call gun control is really applied to black people. That it's almost black people control because whenever they talk about controlling guns and getting guns off the streets, I always found it funny. They will go to the black neighborhoods and say, we got to get these guns off the streets, But black people don't own the majority of the guns. White folks own 99% of the guns. So it seems like gun control would be going to those places where the guns actually are. But it almost seems like they brainwashed us into believing that we should be completely disarmed, completely vulnerable, completely scared, and completely accessible to anybody who wants to kill us. And we buy into that. Is that
right? Yeah, you're absolutely right. You buy into it. So you're co-conspirators against yourself. You participate in things to disarm black folk and also to kill and slaughter black folk at will. That's why when they used to lynch black folk, they had lynching. You couldn't get lynching laws enacted. Where even Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, I can't help you enact in the legislation to stop lynching in the country. I know you're lynching 2 or 3 black people a day, but if I were to try to help pass a law to stop people from lynching black folk, which is the same thing as shooting and killing them, the Southern whites might get angry. Conservative whites in the country are totally opposed to black folk being armed. That's why after the Civil War was over, when the South started Jim Crow segregation, one of the first thing they did in the black codes were to pass gun control laws. So that in the South, in all those southern states where black folk were the majority population, in all those southern states, they ain't gonna let these blacks have weapons. We're gonna pass laws saying the only thing they can have are a few rifles here and there if they have to go hunting for food, and they won't have to come to a white store. But other than that, they cannot have pistols in the South. That is, again, to keep black folk in a vulnerable condition. So if black folk want to reverse the thing, that's what they should be doing. Stay away from these dumbass civil rights leaders and say, hey, no, I'm not trying to I don't need gun control on me. Whites have always had gun control laws. They've had gun control laws in 1643. They had them in 1667. After the Civil War, they had enacted other civil rights laws. I mean, not civil rights laws, but other laws that saying black folk cannot arm themselves in the South under the black codes and the code of etiquette. It's saying that whites can do anything they want to blacks in the South. That's why in a 20-year period, I just checked one 20-year period between 1880 and 1900, they lynched over 2,800 black men in the South. Lynched them straight up for even having contact with, or looking at, whistling at, talking to, sending love letters to, touching, being in association with, not taking off his hat to, disrespecting a white woman. Anything, any excuse to get rid of a black man. And blacks don't have any weapons. So right now you need to reverse it and say, no, we're no longer, you've always had gun control on us. That's why whites control all the weapons. They manufacture all the weapons. They manufacture all the bullets. That's why they got all the training camps all over the country. They got all the rifle ranges all over the country. Blacks don't have anything, weapons. Blacks don't have any weapons. What blacks have to do is flip the switch. Don't play with cards that other people dealt you that are marked. Flip the switch and say, no, I'm no longer for gun control. I'm on every damn black household. Have like whites, have 10 or 20 guns in your house. But what we have to do though is get rid of the stupid blacks that always exercising inappropriate behavior, Dr. Watkins, that always shooting their own people. You get rid of those damn blacks. You get rid of them by building your own communities, establishing a code of conduct in your communities. It says any of these crazy ass blacks that want to demonstrate inappropriate behavior, you're not permitted. You're excommunicated out of the black race. Do not come into our communities. If we're gonna have guns in the black community, we don't want any crazy but black folk in the community. And we don't want anybody else to come in our communities to do in black folk. But you have no code of conduct. Whites got code of conducts. That's why every average white home might have 30 or 40 damn rifles and guns right now in their homes. But they don't go around just randomly shooting in crowds because somebody else is selling drugs and you're selling drugs on the same corner. See, they get away with that because we don't have a code of conduct. And necessary, we get yourself a black mafia. Get yourself a black mafia that says that you can have weapons in the black communities, and any black you see that's demonstrating inappropriate behavior, you excommunicate them out of the neighborhood. So you go live in somebody else's neighborhood. You go move into a next Mexican neighborhood, move into Chinatown, move into Koreatown, move into a white suburbs, but do not try to live in a black town and have a weapon and take and try to use it against another black person. Exercise some common sense and stop inappropriate behavior patterns in your people. You catch one, you hang him up and call the white folks that we hung this sucker because he was out running drugs and killing black people. And he's black. Run him out of town like you would a hound dog with a disease.
Everybody who just tuned in, I'm speaking with Dr. Claud Anderson. Dr. Anderson is the author of the book. The book's Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, The Black History Reader, and Dirty Little Secrets 1 and 2. You can go to powernomics.com to check out his books. I highly recommend it. Everybody should have Dr. Anderson's books. And we're talking about a lot of things. And obviously, the first thing I wanted to ask Dr. Anderson about was the killing of George Floyd out in Minneapolis. People there's a lot of unrest. A lot of people are not just protesting, but some people are retaliating, and it's becoming a big issue. And I want to ask you about this. I meant to ask you this question. One of the things that I did, Dr. Anderson, right after this happened, was I'm always curious to see what the politicians are saying about this. I looked up a lot of the politicians that depend on black votes, all the politicians that I didn't care so much what the Republicans are going to say, because I could predict what the Republicans are going to say. And the Republicans don't get a lot of the black votes. So they don't, they don't, it's quid pro quo with it. I look to the politicians that owe us something, the ones where we gave them something, they owe us something back. So I look at the Democratic politicians. So I looked at, first I looked at Barack Obama. I saw Barack Obama on his Twitter. He was campaigning for Joe Biden. He didn't mention anything about George Floyd. I didn't see George Floyd's name anywhere up there at all. Then I looked at Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama was congratulating Sesame Street on its 40, 50-year anniversary or something like that, and talking about Big Bird and Grover and the Cookie Monster. And then I looked at Joe Biden. He made a statement saying that George Floyd's life matters and, stuff like that. He at least he talked about it. And then Amy Klobuchar, who's a white lady that's supposed to, they say she might be Biden's running mate. She also made a pretty radical statement about it and saying, people should be held accountable. Now, here's the issue, though, and I want to get your take on Biden in general. Joe Biden has a history of really, really being among that group. When you talked about the Southern the Southern men, I forgot which words you used, but the conservative Southerners that really pushed forward a lot of the legislation that led to the killing of black people, or the arming of the police and the mass incarceration and all that stuff. Biden was right there in the middle of that. Biden was one of those guys that created the police state that we live in now. And Amy Klobuchar, the lady that they're looking at is his running mate, who's in Minnesota. She also was a person who refused to prosecute cops. She did not prosecute police when they would go kill black people. So it's really interesting to me when you look at the politics and these politicians that are begging for Black people's votes and demanding Black people's votes, I find it interesting that when Black people are really into something or really concerned about something, they're nowhere to be found. They're only there when it's time to show up and get the vote, but they're not there fighting on behalf of Black people. So can you give me your take on that, and also spin Joe Biden in there? I'd like to get your assessment as a seasoned politician or political figure on what you think about Biden and his presidency and everything else.
I think Biden is an extremely weak man. He'll be a weak politician. He's not doing things specifically and solely for Black folk. He's not going to do it. And seeing Black people right now don't understand the issue should not be what political party you belong to, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican or the Libertarian Party or the Green Party, has nothing to do with it. And again, as an old Democrat, when I ran political campaigns for governors and presidents, attorney generals, state legislators, and mayors, I ran the campaign. I was a campaign manager. I don't know who in the hell they getting this information from. I don't know many of them that had that damn opportunity to run those kind of campaigns across the United States. I ran the campaign. I managed them to get out the votes. And I was noted for winning. I ran campaigns and I would win when I ran it because I played to win. Now, in terms of voting is after I told Black folk at this point in time, after 500 years, almost 500 years of being slaves and semi-slaves, voting has no real power for Black folk. That's an exercise in futility. Who cares about your vote? Who cares about whether or not a Black person vote? That's a pretense game. That's an illusion. They give you an illusion to play with. And then, well, you got to go out and vote. You're outnumbered 10-1. They said, well, Dr. Anderson, if you tell us not to vote, isn't that suppressing the Black vote? No. The Black vote was suppressed from day one, from the founding of the country. Your vote right now is suppressed. It doesn't count. You know how it got suppressed? First, it got suppressed by the United States Constitution, suppressed it. When you say that you're 3/5 of a human being, you cannot vote, period. You cannot vote. You're not citizens. So your vote was suppressed for 360 years by the Constitution. You haven't changed the Constitution. And after Civil War, when they came out with a second Constitution, that should have been the first affirmative action plan in the country for Black folk, then the United States Supreme Court took and corrupted that. And so the South again, it was raised up again, and you're back under the control of the Southern Confederacy. The South has risen again in Donald Trump. So they're making what you vote for. The Southern Confederates are back in power. They call themselves conservative now rather than Confederates. They're conservatives. And what they're saying is that we don't need the Black vote. They don't need the Black vote. The Black vote is outnumbered 10-1. 10-1. I mean, they brought in the last 100 years, they brought in 56 million Hispanics. Hispanics right now are classified as whites. Even the Hispanic system in the last 100 years has neutralized your vote. Your vote doesn't count. Whites don't need your vote. Whites right now outnumbered you 10-1 because whites from Europe are classified as whites with white privilege, white power, white preferences, white opportunities, and white resources. You got the Muslims, they're classified as whites. Women, 51% of the population, they're classified white women, they got the power. You don't have any power. So if you vote, who cares about your vote? What you should be saying is that I'm not gonna play that game. I'm gonna build me a community with the 3 elements in it. I'm gonna put me a wholly independent economy in that community that will produce power, resources, wealth, history, resources, business opportunities, job opportunities, and products and services and goods for Black folk. And then once we start acquiring some wealth and power, then we go to the second floor and we started playing politics. Do not play politics with voting until you got an economy behind you. You know why? Because you have to have an economy to put power and punish and reward those who either do or don't do in your favor. Right now, whites don't care about what we're gonna do for Black folk. You ain't gonna do a damn thing for them. They haven't got any power. They don't own and control anything with a 1/2 of 1%. That's all they can do. I can shoot, if I were white, I could shoot 10 Blacks a day just on general principle. What are they gonna do? They're gonna march and demonstrate, or they're gonna riot. See, Blacks never rioted in this country until the 1960 Civil Rights Movement. Blacks have never in the history of this nation ever rioted. Then we're talking about what black folk are rioting. Black folk had never rioted until the civil rights movement in the 1960s. You know who did all the rioting up to that point? Was whites. Whites were the people that did all the rioting. In the history of this nation, whites rioted in 100% of the cases up until the civil rights movement. And now, so now they can blame black folk for rioting. And when whites rioted, it was different from black folk rioting. White folk rioted up until 1960 for a very specific reason, what you're talking about now. They rioted so they can go into black and destroy black people, destroy blacks, anything black folk own, to kill black folk. They were going to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and burn down Greenwood and kill 600 blacks because that was their intent. They didn't call it, they call that a riot. They rioted in Rosewood in Florida, killed all those blacks and burned down everything. They riot to destroy blacks or destroy something, physical assets, a wealth that black folk own. When blacks now start talking about rioting, what are you rioting for? What are you rioting for? You don't have any power. And that's what Trump is doing right now. Trump is setting up the court system so you'll never have any power. He's putting all these, he's going to the Federalist Society and putting in all these whites into the federal court system as federal judges. So you'll never get a court, or you'll never get justice out of the court system for another 40 years. Now, if this is 2020, you would say, well, hopefully by 2060 or 2070, we might get justice in the court system. Hell, you ain't get no justice. The Supreme Court is stacked against you. That's all. You look on the Supreme Court, see what you got. You got all whites. It's been out of 127 people on the Supreme Court, all of them basically been whites. And they had one black man for a short period of time. You got now you got one white man on the Supreme Court today passing for black. You don't have anybody. There's no justice in that. Only justice is when you start building your own communities, got your own wealth, got your own power, and be independent. Serve your own needs, your own interests, and tell white folk, don't put your hands on me. You might not like me. I know you hate me, because 98% of y'all hated me in slavery. And that's about 150 years ago. Now the surveys show that 88% of all the whites in America still hate black people. And all these immigrants coming to the countries still dislike black folk and see themselves as being superior to black folk. Well, we have people of color. Ain't no such thing as people of color for black folk. You're on your own. You have no friends and no allies. And and with no weapons, you're in danger. You can be wiped out anytime they want them. Because if they put a pistol in your hand, you turn around and shoot yourself in the head or in the foot or in the butt or something, or you shoot your neighbor because you don't have a code of conduct saying don't kill anybody in general, but stand up for yourself, but quit shooting other black folk that haven't done anything to you. Well, Dr. Anderson, he was standing on my corner selling his own marijuana, and I belonged to a gang and I had to kill him. But white folk enslaved your butt for 360 years and another 100 years semi-slavery. You didn't shoot any of them. Show me one incident right now where the white police right now, show me and tell me about it when I'm gonna close my mouth in 2 seconds. Show me one incident where white police have shot white women. Show me an incident where white police officers are going around now killing Asians. Show me where they're killing Asians. Show me right now where white police officers are killing Muslims. Show me where white police officers right now are killing American Indians. Show me right now where white police officers go around killing gays. Show me where they're killing poor people. Show me anything other than where they're killing black men. That is the issue. And until you stop it, you got to read the Powernomics books and figure out how to stop this stuff. And I got about one day before this election, I got 10 things that black folk can do. Somewhere between 10 and 15 things. I said, if you want to play the game to win, here are 10 or 15 things you must do if you're going to stop some of this stuff. Right now, the black man is an endangered species and his butt's up for grabs.
All right, well, everybody, in case you just came in, I'm talking to Dr. Claud Anderson. Dr. Anderson is the author of the books Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, The Black History Reader, Dirty Little Secrets 1 and 2. And his website is powernomics.com. That's powernomics.com. Make sure you go to that website. Somebody type powernomics.com in the chat. Use the hashtag Powernomics so that we know when we're talking to each other. You know, our hashtags can be B1, Powernomics, things like that, to just let people know that you are that you put in your community first, that Black people matter to you more than anything else, and that's really important. And also, I want to quickly mention and say thank you to those of you who donated in the chat. I don't interrupt Dr. Anderson because when he's speaking, I think we all need to be all ears and listen. And but I want to say thank you to iwantamask.com. They sell those N95 masks, and they made donations in the chat. So go to iwantamask.com and you can get your N95 mask. Use the code. I think their code is Dr. Boyce, one word, and you can get 30% off your mask. It's funny, everybody's wearing masks now because now it's, that's actually making it easier to do your social unrest and everything because you cover your face. Also, Shalonda Lyons, thank you. More melanin, please. Thank you. Edward Williams, thank you. ECPO26, thank you. And if I missed you, anybody I missed, I want to say thank you to for donating, because we're building Black media and your support is extremely invaluable. So Dr. Anderson, hit the thumbs up button. Everybody right now, please hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't done it yet, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and notification bell. If you're on Facebook, please share it right now to your page. If you're on Twitter, please retweet this conversation. So Dr. Anderson, let me ask you about this. I want to make sure we're clear on this point so people can really understand this. I talked about it, but I don't know it as well as you do. So I wanted to, I was happy that you were coming in because I would love for you to break this down. Can you make it real clear to people in terms of how we got to this point where the police are killing Black people, meaning that, what's the origins of policing? How do we get to the point where most of these cops are white, or they come from Irish neighborhoods and things like that? And what was policing like, say, for example, during the Jim Crow era or right after slavery versus what it is now, and how do those two connect? The same way, the criminal justice system connects to slavery, right? The states that had the most slaves also had the most Black prison inmates. So how does the policing itself, in terms of the procedures and protocols, how does that connect to what they were doing over 100 years ago, to what we're seeing right now?
Well, let me just talk a little fast. I know this is a special day for you because you got to get back and talk to that woman who you're going to be marrying so pretty soon.
Yeah, it is her birthday. It is
her birthday. Yes, and I don't want her to be angry with me. So let me see if I keep. But when slavery was in full bloom, again, keep in mind now, the southern states is where most of the Blacks were consigned to. They were consigned to the southern states because there wasn't that many Black slaves up north. Even though the North is just as racist as in many respects of the South, but most of the slaves were confined to the South. That means that most of those southern states had majority Black populations. That was by policy, because you passed laws in the slave code of 1705. It says that for every 4 or 5 Blacks in the South, we want at least one white person to be down there to be in charge of them, to be managers and over them. And so that's why they set up something like the Georgia colony to make sure that they set a buffer zone where Blacks can't try to run away and enslave and go to Florida and come back and fight. But in the South, it was North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas. Blacks were the dominant population. Blacks made up 50 to 55% of the population. And that scared the hell out of white folk. But they had to have some whites down there. But once they started importing some whites down there, they had to import them. That's why they set up Georgia. They petitioned England, started sending more people to America during slavery, and they were running out of normal citizens with normal attitudes. They wouldn't clean out all the prisons, the mental institutions, and everything else, and ship them to the United States and start putting them in the South. To be a part of the management class over Black folk. So all these crazy ass white coops came out of the prison system and the mental institutions out of Europe to come to the United States to manage the slaves. And so that was part of the slave codes of 1705, so they could manage them. And they said by the same token, when they come down here, they have to join them with militias. They set up militias in the South, started spreading across the country. Those militias was by state law, saying every state has to have a state militia to help just in case if Black folk decide to riot or revolt in most instances against being enslaved, whipped, castrated, lynched, beaten, and working 12 hours a day without any pay, without being paid. And so And so they passed those, they had militias set up. And then the militias required that every white male in the South, and some even up north, but primarily in the South, every white male between 18 and 45 years of age had to join the militia. And which means they'd always carry a weapon. By law, they required white boys to carry a weapon. And so they carried these weapons around and they had set up called paddy rollers, which means they walked the streets and roads at night. It's any black person they saw that they would say, well, if he looks suspicious, what constitute being looking suspicious mean if he was black and walking free, that was being suspicious. He looks like he might do something. He's big and burly. That made him suspicious. And so you stop him, arrest him, and ask him for credentials. Why are you out here? Why are you walking free? Why aren't you on the back on the plantation picking cotton or doing something worthwhile? And that's what the militia was doing. And later on, they on the plantation themselves, they gave those same people, they gave them a badge. They had plantation badges, and those plantation badges called them policemen. So the first policemen were really paddy rollers. They were slave chasers. And if you look in the Black History Reader, like this book, and you look in there and wonder, I can't remember what page it's on, I put down photos of the badges, the police badges. They call them plantation police. That was your first police in the United States, were plantation police. That was their responsibilities, to walk the streets and to do what? To protect white people's lives and to protect white people's property. That was the purpose of a police. The police as an extension of the military. That's why in any kind of revolt by blacks, that they always call out the military to come protect the white folks and their property. They didn't come out, they have no obligation to protect black folk. And the police is there to protect white people and white people's property, particularly business property, because in our society, the most important thing is owning a business. And that's what they're gonna do, protect that property. And that's why right now, if you go to any major city right now, where even if they had a majority black population, you'll wind up finding out that most of the police officers in a big city are gonna be whites. And the common sense question should be, why would a majority black city have a police force that's primarily made up of whites? You gotta be on the stupid side to do that in the first place. Why would you hire white people in a majority black city, arm them, give them a badge, and give them a club to beat the hell out and shoot black folk? But that was a frequent thing, still goes on. I go to any major city right now that's predominantly black, the police force would be primarily whites. And you should ask yourself, well, why would black folk do that? It's a form of suicide. They authorize whites to come in and beat them and shoot them. But see now, but if I go into a white neighborhood in a rural area, any place in this country, I'm not gonna find white rural communities that are majority white people in it, where they're hiring majority blacks and giving them guns to be over them. That's the whole thing about the gun control. Why do the white neighborhoods, white communities never have a majority black police force over them? But I go to any major black city and you'll find that they hired whites to be over them to dominate them. It's a form of suicide. They've been doing it for so long, they do it automatically. And then they turn around and complain about white police brutalizing them and shooting them. That why they do it, they said, why do they do it? Because you allowed them to do it. You authorized them, you gave them the badge, you gave them the club, you gave them the gun. That's why they do it. They do it because they can do it. And you don't do anything about it. They know it. And once you try to prosecute one for doing it, something that's abusive to black folk, he goes to the court system and you find all the prosecutors, 95% of the prosecutors are whites, and about 95% of all the lawyers in America are white. All the federal judges are primarily white, and the Supreme Court is primarily white. You haven't got a snowball's chance of getting justice. So whites, that's why you need to build your own communities, hire your own police force, and see the Chinese learned this way back in the 1800s. You cannot go to Chinatown to find white policemen in Chinatown. Why wouldn't blacks do what the Chinese were doing? In Chinatown, they had a general rule that says that we don't need to have white police officers in Chinatown. We don't want any white police in Chinatown brutalizing white folk. Brutalizing Chinese. Because here we take care of our own people. And that's when they had two groups. One was called the hatchet man, the other was called the tongues, which means it said to this, that if you live in Chinatown, you're a Chinese person, and you violate or kill another Chinaman, that you better get out of town before the sun went down. If you don't, your butt's gonna be you're gonna be floating in the river. And see, right now, that's called accountability. Every neighborhood, every group has accountability. Even the Indians, Arab, they had accountabilities in their community, which says you cannot violate your sister or brother in this community and get away with it. We don't have an accountability in our communities. We don't have a code of conduct that says you cannot live in our community and violate other Black folk and hurt and kill them and slaughter them because you got a pistol and get away with it. Because because if you do, we're not going to call it. We're not going to call the police. If you do something bad in our community, once we build our communities, we're not going to call the police to come arrest you. They said, we're going to take care of you. We're going to call the police to come to cut you down from the tree. We'll take care of you. And the Black folk must come up with a code of conduct saying, if you come in here and do things against our people and think you're going to get away with it, you better get another thought coming. Everybody's got a code of etiquette. Whites in the South had a code of conduct and etiquette. It says a Black person touches a white woman or was disrespectful to a white person, or wouldn't take his hat off, he's talking to a white person, or counted his money in front of a white person, then he had to pay a penalty. And sometimes, most of the time, it was his life. He had to give up his life for doing it. We don't have a code of conduct. And so that's how they get away with it. They get away with it because we let people get away with things against us. It's our inappropriate behavior pattern that we learned during slavery to let Black folk do wrong things to Black folk and not being punished. Hold them accountable, just like whites hold you accountable. And then when we build our own communities, we set up a code of conduct or a sense of community, which says nobody gonna come in our communities anymore and exploit, misuse, abuse, and kill and slaughter Black folk. Think they're getting away with it. And we don't want to have a community that's dominated by white policemen. We're gonna hire Black officers and we're gonna hold them accountable. And no blue codes in the Black community saying you support your fellow officer rather than supporting the citizens you're supposed to be representing. You're supposed to be trying to protect those Blacks and those citizens living in that community. But they get away with it because Black folk don't demand it. Demand people respect you and appreciate you and protect you and not abuse you. That's what you have to do, and that's the answer to your question.
All right. So did everybody hear that? Give me a yes in the chat if you are hearing what Dr. Anderson is saying. Give me a verbal yes to let me know that that you're processing what he's saying. This man's taking his time to share with you knowledge and information that you're not going to get anywhere else on TV or anywhere else. They don't want you to understand these things. They want you to sit back and pray to white Jesus and sing "We Shall Overcome" and hold a Dr. King dinner every year and just hope that it gets better. Well, it ain't going to get better until you make it better. You know, white supremacy is not just the problem of white people. It's really the problem of Black people. Anybody can think that they're superior to you, but it's up to you to decide if you're going to accept that or not. White supremacy works because you commit to white supremacy. You are a white supremacist. You know, Dr. Anderson, I always talk about it like a basketball game. You know, if my basketball team is playing against another basketball team, they can think they're superior to me all day as much as they want to. They're gonna think that they're superior, that their team is superior to mine. So it's up to my team to prove to them that you're not superior to me. And so I think where Black people fail is that we consistently submit to white supremacy and accept that. And then we get upset that white supremacy exists. Well, you know, a man can think he's superior to me all day if he wants, but I'm going to show him why he's not. You know, and I think that we don't understand that personal responsibility piece of that because too many of us have been really hypnotized by this kumbaya, you know, Democratic Party liberal thinking that's very weak, very passive, very, you know, like, oh, let's all just get along. Let's all just, you know, please accept us. Please let us in. Let's integrate. And it's like everybody's playing a certain game and we're not playing that game. We don't understand the rules of the game. So we end up always losing the game. So let me ask you this, Dr. Anderson.
Before we go to that, let me jump in 1 second and see what you're saying is absolutely correct. And what whites have done is they've always cleansed everything to where white folk come out on top. They do that intentionally to say that whiteness is brightness, whiteness is everything. Anything that's of value has to be white. And they said that therefore whiteness is the strongest power on the earth. Whiteness is the cleanest and purest on the earth. Whiteness is a superior thing on the earth. That's what y'all call white supremacists. And so consequently, anything that comes up or rise, we must wash it clean to make sure it comes out white. That's why, like I was telling you a few minutes ago about Memorial Day, that's what Memorial Day is all about. Black folk don't understand this is a Memorial Day. Memorial Day started out, most blacks don't know this, Memorial Day started out unclean, it was black. Memorial Day was a holiday that black people set up. Just like I told you about Thanksgiving, white folks didn't start Memorial Day, blacks started Memorial Day. But in the earlier, when they first set up Memorial Day, it wasn't called Memorial Day. it was called Decoration Day. Decoration Day that came out of this after the Civil War. After the Civil War was over, because see, during the Civil War, you had about 250,000 white. Always talking about, we went to war to free y'all from slavery. No, you didn't. You didn't go to war to free blacks from slavery. You went to have a fight with the North over who could own the biggest production systems in the country, because they see most of the products are being raised in the South. All the farming, the tobacco, the rice, the cotton, everything. Your industrial base was in the South, and the North wanted to capitalize on that because they had incoming Europeans coming in that wanted business opportunities. They were coming in, and they wanted to take a strip the North or some of that, or the South or some of those resources. That's what the war was over. That was a fight between the North and the South over who's going to own and control the means of production, which was black labor. Black labor, the biggest power at that time was slave power. That's what the war was over. Who's going to dominate control? So when the war started, it got hot. You had about 250,000 whites who would not go to war to fight for black folk. They would not go to war. About 257,000 whites deserted. Always talking about how patriotic they are in this country, waving the flag, always waving the flag. You got to stand and salute the flag. You got to pledge allegiance. We're the most patriotic. We're whites. We're the most patriotic thing in the country is white folk. That's a lie. The most patriotic people in the country were black people. They were the only people that believed in the first page of a civics textbook about being patriotic. And blacks are the most patriotic, not whites. But about 257,000 whites deserted in the midst of the Civil War, ran off, hid out, ducked. And what did the United States do then? To win the Civil War, they were going to lose it. The South would have won the Civil War. What they did, they began to draft or call blacks in, free blacks to come in and fight on the side of the North, to fight with the Union, to beat the South, because the South was winning the damn war, because whites ran off. So they brought in blacks, and they replaced those 200-some-thousand whites who deserted. They replaced them with blacks. So blacks became a part of the Union Army. But then the South put out what's called a black flag policy, saying if you catch any black person with a Union uniform on, kill him on sight. Never take a black soldier prison during the Civil War. Kill him on the spot. It was called a black flag rule. Kill him on the spot. And they convinced the American Indians who were fighting also with the South. American Indians also killed black soldiers who were wearing the Union uniform and on the site. And so, but when the war ended, the blacks, and the war was over in 1965. They then, some blacks starting, I guess it started in South Carolina, probably around Charleston. They said, we got to recognize these blacks that came to replace all those whites who ran off from the war and deserted and hid out. Now they won't take credit for having ended slavery by fighting the Civil War. They were cowards when they ran off from the Civil War and they deserted, but now they won't take credit for it. When in fact, you had 257,000 blacks replace them and fought that war for them. And the blacks in the South says, let's recognize those blacks. And so they started in Charleston, South Carolina, they started a thing called Decoration Day, which means on the 1st of May, the first day of May every year would be called Decoration Day. That's when blacks in the South would go out and place flowers on the graves and have a little march and demonstration celebrating the soldiers, black soldiers who went to war that really won the Civil War. It was those black Union soldiers, and put something on their graves because the Indians and the whites slaughtered and killed them. They were buried out in different places, in Charleston, South Carolina, whole big graves. They had a big graveyards there just for burying those blacks, and that was called Decoration Day, not Memorial Day. Now later on, whites then took it away from them and cleaned it up. no longer be a decoration day. So we call it a Memorial Day. We call it a Memorial Day. And instead of having these, and you know what Memorial Day, and we'll have a big place in Washington, D.C. where we'll celebrate Memorial Day, not on May the 1st as Black folk were celebrating it. Let's celebrate it the last day. And we make it a white day holiday, and we make it on the 30th of May, the last day when whites take it over. We'll make it the last day where Blacks had created or invented Memorial Day was the first day. And they started right here in Washington, D.C. They started right across over here in Arlington, because you know what the Arlington Cemetery is? Mm-hmm. That used to be called that was a village for Black folk. That was Black folk had a big village there. That's where that's really was the first memorial place for decoration for recognizing Blacks who fought and died in the Civil War. And there was 1,000 acres over there, that land that belonged to George Washington's son. It was 1,000 acres, and over in Arlington, the Blacks built a village over there called a Decoration Village, a Freedom Village, and that was right where that Arlington Cemetery is. Whites took over Memorial Day, changed it from the 1st of May to the 30th of May, and then took over the land where Blacks were living. It was called a Freedom Village. They burned down and turned out all those Black homes and made it into a big cemetery they called Arlington Cemetery, where now they bury the dead for whites, for the military. That's where Arlington came from, and that's why Memorial Day is celebrated now over in Arlington on that 1,000 acres. There used to be a Freedom Village for Blacks that started out as Declaration Day for Blacks. That's where Memorial Day came from. That's how whites took it and cleaned it up and changed it from being a Black holiday to a white holiday. And instead of celebrating and commemorating Blacks who had died, they now celebrate any and anybody, just like they do it with social integration. It's everybody. That's why they changed the word from Black suffering to minorities, the poor people, the people of color. Anything that's should be Black, they clean it up and change it for everybody. That's why Arlington Cemetery would take anybody over there other than Blacks. But that's where Memorial Day came from. It was initially a Black holiday. It was on the 1st of May, not the 30th of May where it is now. Whites cleaned it up and took it and stole it. And now that's what you're celebrating. It's everybody but Black folk. And they've done that throughout history. Every time something comes up, that's why there's no Hall of Fame in music for Black folk. And they take Black folks' music called rock and roll, called rhythm and blues. They change it to rock and roll. They take anything that Black folk have and change it, make it and clean it up and make it something for whites. That's the long and short of it.
All right, everybody. If you could, please give Dr. Claud Anderson a digital thank you, a digital round of applause. Let him know how much you appreciate him coming in and sharing his time. And also, as you hit the thumbs up button, please hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe. I want to say thank you to Nancy King, Cameron Brown, Angelique Lenoir, Michelle Cameron Isaacs, and Mike Nice. Thank you for your donations in the chat. It's really going to help us build this platform out. Anybody else who wants to be a patron and be part of our League of Intelligent Black People can go and sign up at intelligentblackpeople.com. That's intelligentblackpeople.com. Two more quick things. One, Dr. Claud Anderson, all of his books in his library pack with all 5 books and the DVD can be purchased for $99 at powernomics.com. That's powernomics.com. It'll be the best $99 that you ever spent in your life. It'll be a lifetime of knowledge for your family. So I encourage you to go to powernomics.com. Also, don't forget June 1st, he talked about building an economic base. That's one of the solutions we believe in the Black Business School. I got the Panther behind my head. That's our logo. And what we're doing for you guys for free is the Black Stock Market Challenge. We want to challenge as many of you as possible to become stock market investors. The challenge is free. You can get started June 1st. Go register now at theblackstockmarketchallenge.com. THE, that's theblackstockmarketchallenge.com. Somebody type theblackstockmarketchallenge.com in the chat so other people can see it. And I'd love for all of you to join. It won't cost you a thing. And I guarantee by the time you get done, you'll be an investor, which allows you to begin that process of building an economic base so that the next generation is not sitting here looking stupid and still and stuck the way we are. You got to plant a seed for your children. This is what we're doing. These are among our many solutions. So, Dr. Anderson, I want to say thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Okay, and in case to tell them, go to the Black History Reader to answer your question. You asked me about why is the pattern of black men killed by white law enforcement and white officers? Why is it so acceptable and entrenched? There are about 3 pages explaining that to you in the Black History Reader. And so if you go to the Black History Reader, go to page 150, 151, and 1 through 152. It explains all that, gives you all the historical data. Can you see that? Okay. Huh? And those are those 2 things. Those are the badges. Those are called police badges. Those are the first police badges. They were called plantation police in the old days, but now they're still plantation. But it's called ghetto police. That's doing the shooting and killing in major cities. They pick black folk just as they did during slavery. But those are the initial badges that were given to police that were going to watch blacks and call patty rollers and militia. They watch black folk and guard them and kill them if necessary anytime they wanted to. So that's in the Black History Reader on page 150 through 152.
All right. Well, Dr. Anderson, somebody in here asked if you could run for president, and so I think we make a great ticket. What do y'all think? Dr. Anderson for president. I'll be his vice president. What y'all think? Will we get y'all's vote in the next election? Give me a yes if y'all think that's a good ticket. Well, you know what? I maybe we can run for the president and vice president of intelligent black people. And that's where you already have that title, and I defer to you because I want y'all to know I ain't nothing, y'all. I'm just a cheap imitation.
Don't say that. Yes, you are. But see, I would love to do that. As a matter of fact, I wish I were younger because I would do that. I would run for president just as represent. Because I wouldn't bite my tongue on protecting fight for black folk.
They wouldn't let you in none of the debates. They wouldn't let you debate none of them head to head.
And right now, the first thing I would do is take out most of these useless congressional black caucus that don't do a damn thing for black folk. But I would stand up for black folk, and people tell me, well, Joe the plumber, the whites, they want to do that. I said, tell Trump to tell me that. Tell Connolly to come tell me that crap. I said, I wouldn't listen to it. I said, I've been playing politics too long to buy into all this BS that's out there floating around. And I said, if you understand history well, you stand up and tell people ain't nobody better. And this is why I would love it. Of course, you see the strongest, most powerful thing on earth is blackness. It's blackness. That's why the Bible says that in the first time when human beings were created, they were put into Africa and given the richest continent. Blackness is the most powerful thing on the earth. And black folk keep running away from it, and we should be running towards it. They be trying to get around be white. And see, if you go to in color in a box of crayons, I can put 8 colors into a box called color crayons. The strongest color is always the black color. The black color would dominate any color. It would dominate any color. And see, if people say, well, whiteness is brightness, and as I said, they want to change everything, make it white, make it superior. Whiteness cannot be superior. You know why? Because there's no color in whiteness. All the color comes out of blackness. You see, the Asian color, the red colors, the green colors, the yellows, the Asians, everybody comes out of blackness. Blackness, and that's why the first human beings were black. That's why the Bible said initially when God created heaven and earth, and he created man in his image, and he had hair like lamb's wool and bronze skin. Blackness is power. And I would run for the presidency, yes. But when the first thing I wouldn't disrespect or hurt anybody, and I would love and respect everybody. But my first priority would be taking care of black people. I love black folk. I want those communities back that I grew up with. I love black folk. And one time, next time I come on one day, I want you to set aside enough time to walk through. Let me tell you what happened one day when I was and try to run through my history, why I love black folk so much in the South. And when I was younger, going back to the war, World War II, okay? And so you understand why I love black folk. I miss black folk the way it used to be, and I love them. And I would give anything to turn back the hands of time and go back, because black folk were fun to be back in those days. We were something special. I mean, we were special people in those days before that damn social integration came by. All this BS Martin Luther King talking about, we want to go to their neighborhoods and go to their schools and marry their women and go to their theaters and their restaurants. No, I want to go back to blackness. Mm-hmm. And I know some people, Doctor, I don't know why you love black folks so, because I love them. That was fun to me. Okay, and I respect them and I love them.
All right. So everybody who loves Black people, type Black love in the chat. Type Black love in the chat so we can remind each other how much we love each other. And I want you all to know that we love you very, very much, and we appreciate you as well. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button. If you're on Facebook, please share this to your page for all the ignorant people that need to hear from Dr. Anderson. If you're on Twitter, please retweet this conversation. One more time. His website is powernomics.com. You can get all of his great books, Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, etc. It's the best Black history you'll ever get, best Black economics you'll get, powernomics.com. Also, don't forget, Black Stock Market Challenge starts on June 1st. Everybody needs to invest. All Black people must invest. Like Joe Biden tried to say, if you don't vote for me, you ain't Black. Well, I come back and say, if you ain't investing for your children, then you ain't Black. So let's claim Blackness as intelligent, as builders, as smart, as strength, and let's start investing. So the Black Stock Market Challenge is totally free, starts June 1st. You can go to theblackstockmarketchallenge.com. That's theblackstockmarketchallenge.com. So thank you very much, Dr. Anderson. It was great talking.
And Dr. Watson, do you have a better understanding? You think your audience have a better understanding now what Memorial Day is and where it came from?
Well, let me ask everybody in here. Did you learn something new about Memorial Day? If you learned something new today about Memorial Day, type yes in the chat. Let Dr. Anderson know that his knowledge is not in vain. I know there's a few thousand people watching, and I know I learned a lot. And what I appreciate about your history lessons is that you give us so much information that we are not going to get in school. I don't know a single white public school on this planet that is teaching Black children that truth about Black history and who we really are and what we've gone through and how America came to be what it is. And you prepare Black people to be strong and to defend ourselves. I think the current educational system trains Black people to be weak and vulnerable. And so that's why I appreciate you. That's what led me to really appreciate your work from the very beginning.
Well, I appreciate that, Dr. Watkins. And that's why, whether it's Thanksgiving or Memorial Day, I want them to understand that we are special people. You're exceptional people. You were the first people. You were the original minority in this country and on the earth. You were the strongest people. Your blackness is your code of conduct. And the reason you're being beat up on now is not because of your skin color, it's because of your condition. But if you practice, read Powernomics and my books and learn how to empower yourselves economically, you can change your conditions. You cannot change your color, but you can change your conditions. And that's what white folks don't want you to do. Change your condition and you become the top. You begin to start dominating and you can become the superior group if you want to. Don't be against anybody else, but don't be against yourself and your own people. Learn that it's your conditions, change your conditions. Don't worry about changing your color. Quit talking about people against you because of your color. They're not, it's your condition. If we become very powerful people, we had 600 Black multi-billionaires, people would love and respect us. But right now, we 38% of our people are beneath the poverty line. They have nothing, own and control nothing. So now, change the conditions. I love you.
Love you too, Dr. Anderson. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you next week, my friend. Thank you.
Okay, see you next week, and tell the wife I said happy birthday.
I sure will. And everybody, don't forget, it's powernomics.com. That's Dr. Anderson's website. So I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Have a good day. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye now.